Yo, what's up? So I set a timer for 15 minutes because I am at the gym, in front of the gym, and I said these were gonna be 15 minutes. So the timer's already set. Good morning, happy Friday. Let's get into it. Um, so I didn't start working yet. I mean, my stocking job on Sunday, I'll go in for some more paperwork. Officially, I'll start working on Wednesday, and my teaching job, they are insistent that I get the letter saying that I was not abusive to kids in Japan from a job I worked at 15 years ago. So I told them the company doesn't exist, and they said, well, take a screenshot of their website, find a newspaper article. Like, what? Just the logistics of it. Why would a Japanese company be declaring that they went bankrupt? Because Japan doesn't do that, you know? Nor would they have a website, or would I be able to pull up a website from 15 years ago from a company that probably didn't have one, because 15 years ago companies didn't have it. So I was digging around emails, literally just, I put it in reverse and just going through email, and I'm looking at all the, because this was before cell phones, so we would communicate through emails, back in the day, no texting and all that. And I found letters or emails from ex-girlfriends and what have you. And then early, when I just got to Japan and I'm all trying to speak Japanese, like, konnichiwa, watashi wa mashu, it was bad. Interesting. But then I did find the thread of the company, which was a really bad company. I know why they went out of business, because when I was working there, basically in Japan, well, it might have changed a little bit, but before, a company A would, like 3 companies or 4 companies would approach the Board of Education, and they would try to solicit business, and the teachers would have to get in their best dressed suits and go with the companies, and you would stand there and they'd be like, yeah, we are a great staff, see, look at these teachers, don't they look very knowledgeable? And then the Board of Education would be basically making their choices on appearances, And one year this company had me go, and the school year starts in like April or March. And in March, they're like, oh, we didn't get the contract, so go find other jobs. Man, it was just a bad company. But I found a thread, I emailed it, it bounced back. I called the number, it didn't pick up. I Googled mapped the location. There's a hole in the ground. It's like a little construction site. And then I even put the last email of them telling us that they couldn't secure work for us. So hopefully all this will be sufficient for them. Otherwise, whatever. I'll just make sure not to put that on my resume. I'm telling you, man, this is like when doing the right thing doesn't get, or maybe, well, we could take it a couple. This could be when doing the right thing doesn't do anything. It just hurts you. Like saying too much, But it could also mean maybe this company that I'm thinking about working for is just a shitty company, and this store will close, and that's on some positive stuff, and I'm more of a realist. I'm trying to work. She is beautiful. But she's leaving. But maybe you can see her shadow. Yeah, right there. You see her in the background. But other than that, so I haven't been doing my morning walks. I started doing night walks. Yeah, so I'd be leaving the house around like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock once. And just walking around, not the trail, because that's like asking for someone to abduct me. There's no lights on there. But just walking the main streets, going up, coming down. And I ran into my friend that was in the video before, I was walking and I passed Taco Bell and I'm like, that looks like his car. And he looks over like, that looks like Matt. And I'm like, what you doing? He's like, you want anything? And then the guy in the drive through was just like, I'll take a da-da-da-da-da. And he's like, ha ha ha. But yeah, so I've been doing that. Because as I mentioned it's been a whole week. Last Friday I was listening to the audiobook of Jay Dilla. And I finished it 2 days ago. This is a 14-hour audiobook. And the only way to get those hours in is because I can't sit in the house sitting down listening to it. I have to be doing something. Cleaning, but I'm not going to be cleaning. Or walking or doing exercise. So in the morning, exercise. And at nighttime, walking. And my very, very quick update or synopsis or review of the book. I think if you're making beats, I don't want to limit it if you're making hip hop beats on MPC, but I don't know if it would apply to someone who's making compositions on a mini Moog. I don't know, but I would definitely think if you're hip hop oriented, lo-fi, that genre. Although again, it's so here's my thing, right? Of course, it's called Jay Dilla, and maybe 70% of the book is about him, directly about him, what he did, what he said, how he talks. I had the audiobook, so the guy, when he would be trying to sound like him, he'd be like, man, which was what James would do when he was irritated. And throughout the 70% part about him, he was always irritated. Man. The other 30% talks about just the history of music, which is really illuminating because time has a way of erasing things. Like I couldn't imagine a young person, like high school, looking over and seeing his lighter-skinned brother. I'm saying, so a black guy looking at a lighter-skinned black guy, and then looking over and seeing a white guy, and looking behind him, seeing Italian, and seeing this multiracial classroom, and thinking anything more than that. Just, okay, well, I fucks with that guy, and I don't really care for him. But it wouldn't be so much because of the shade of their color or the origin of birth or... Now, of course, it's school. School is an odd time for everyone. You got to fall in line. It has a caste system, basically. And you kind of are born into it, but you could kind of move around. And I haven't been in school, at least over here, for the past 20, 25 years, I don't know. But I imagine it hasn't changed much. It just shifted. So instead of who has the coolest car, it might be who has the newest iPhone. I got iPhone 14, but it hasn't come out yet. Well, my parents know people. But yeah, so, but it wasn't always like that, Like, there was a time when people moving straight from the South moved into different things. But actually, this is not even that conversation, because I'm currently listening to the audiobook of Duke Ellington. So which is cool because Jay Dilla kind of went right up to that point, like when they moved to Detroit. So right when, not so much Jim Crow era, but after that, where Duke Ellington is right there. And then after Duke Ellington, I'm going to do James Armstrong, which is before Duke Ellington. And as I read these books, and Miles Davis comes after Duke, and after Thelonious, so to go Duke Ellington, Thelonious, Miles, I always forget his name, and he actually started this kind of journey for me, but what is his name? I want to shout him out. He's a piano player. He worked with Miles Davis. He played a wrong note. Miles Davis gave him a sharp look. You can see this on the internet. Miles Davis whispered in the ear, played the bottom notes. Don't play the bottom notes, but he interpreted don't play the butter notes. If it rings a bell, you know who I'm talking about. But he would be the after Miles Davis, and it keeps going on. But again, but it's interesting because these are mega, like all these books are like 14, 13, 18 hours. So they don't spend so much. It's not all about, and then Miles Davis had a piece of chocolate on this day. It's like before him, what his parents were doing, and then after him, and who he influenced, and how the shift happened. Because there's a shift where people are like, we used to do it this way, but now people are doing it this way. Their music is whack. Which is interesting because you remember the whole mumble era. Oh, they're mumbling, and the auto-tune era. Like, we're seeing it, but we see it faster because technology is just faster. But back then, it was just kind of like, oh, they're using electronic piano. They're ruining music. They said the same thing. And I come back to, we kind of forget that. We think we're special, our generation, or what we do. Oh, they put face tats on them. They're ruining music. Oh, the women are rapping now. They're ruining music. And on and on. But as I read these books, listen to them, same thing. So in the case of Jay Dilla, right? When he came out, the beat was on beat. And he was off beat. And they're just, oh, you're making terrible music. Why are you doing it that way? Same argument. Just a different phase. And then it would come back around where Jay Dilla would hear other producers using his techniques and be like, you're biting my style. Don't bite my style. And he'd be all upset. Man. Which is so ironic because he would be like lifting drums and taking other people's music, but other people couldn't take his technique. Where other people's music is copyrighted, he might flip it till they can't recognize it, but your technique, you can't copyright a technique. I mean, there is a way to do it. Like the way you make a burger. Burger King has a way of making their burgers which is copyrighted or trademark. Coca-Cola has a formula that no one can replicate. I think it's a secret. But if I do this with my finger and I get like 1 million views, I cannot stop anyone from, oh, I'll do it with my other hand. I'll do it with I have my baby. Like, people are gonna run with that idea and run it in all different directions, and for the person who originated it to be upset. But it's just, I got 3 minutes. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it. But it was just fascinating to hear. Now, the other part of it is how much he was deified. Is that the right word? I don't know. Turned into a god. So there's a story of when he was on his deathbed, he had his MPC and he was making out beats and donuts. His last album was made on his deathbed, which is interesting because Kanye came after him. And when he did Through the Wire, it's pretty possible that he was inspired to be like, okay, man, I'm going to make a music while I'm in this condition, because James did that. Dilla. But so I read one book, right? It was a little small book, 33 RPM, some shit like that. And it talked about, it said that exactly. When he was on his deathbed, he had his MPC. But in this book, a 14-hour audio book, it said that did not happen. And this dude, he like researched and interviewed everybody. He talked to the mom, he talked to all the people, he talked to Q-Tip, all these people. And they're like, no, that didn't happen that way, because they were there. So how is one book turning? Now I understand the concept, because when I did the Guinness record, it was 12 hours and 30 seconds or some shit like that. But when people would tell the story to me or bring it up, be like, oh yeah, you remember you broke the Guinness record for 24 hours? 12 hours and 24 hours are two different things. Now, the only reason I stopped the Guinness was because the camera stopped recording. It was like a hard drive camera where it had infinite, it was a finite time, but it wouldn't have ran out of data. It just, the system just said after 12 hours and 13 seconds, we just stopped recording, which was so random and stupid. When after the fact, it was written in the manual, which I just never, but it became lore, folklore after the fact. And then in other circles, people are talking about, I'm like, yeah, I heard he climbed on top of Mount Fuji and broke the Guinness record while he had 2 girls naked and he was taking their pictures with his drone using his like, and that's kind of what happened to him.